How did people normally start?
I'm gonna buy stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely want to buy stuff.
Well, massage is a great practice.
Yeah. Where is the training camp?
Nick Colucci, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, July of 2003.
I would order 10s at a time, CDs, and it was always special order stuff.
My grandma, she was Southern, right? So she was a big NWA fan. So I grew up spending a lot of time with my grandparents. And that was like the way to keep me still as a child, was like put wrestling on the TV. I have no idea when I started liking it. I just know that that was like, since I was really little, that was what I did, was watch wrestling.
Just a lot of NWA early days stuff?
Yeah, well, you know, we had black boxes back then, so I got the pay-per-views like a month or two later from an uncle or whatever, but yeah, lots of, all sorts of VHS tapes. And that, but that was like, hey, sit still, stop running around, watch wrestling.
Only buy punk rock CDs.
Yeah.
But then we would find like at Goodwill or whatever, we would buy only like 80s glam rock cassettes.
Yeah.
Because all of us only had cassette players in our cars.
And I was like, there's got to be a way I can do this, right? I wasn't really sure how to go about it, right? So everybody, I think in my generation, backyard wrestled. But I didn't know there was a local wrestling school.
Until then, you were backyard wrestling, essentially?
Yeah, you know, through like middle school and high school, just messing around, going to local shows. The company that ran in Oshkosh actually was from Chicago. There wasn't like a way that I could get trained by those guys, right? And I ended up going to some other local stuff and asking.
Well, it's like a record, though. It's the whole experience, right?
I guess, yeah.
I grew up with cassettes, so.
Built our own little thing, right? There's probably 24 guys. None of us were good.
Yeah.
None of us, but we had built our own ring. We had done everything we could to make it as real as we could, and told all of our friends, and would have like one, you know, we'd have shows every other weekend or something. And there'd be 5-10 people watching. But then we'd have one big one where we'd have 200 people in somebody's backyard. But yeah, I'm not going to name names because some guys don't want to own it, right? Yeah. I don't care. But yeah, I would say a large majority of guys that are on indie shows backyard wrestled at least once. If they tell you they didn't, they're probably lying. All the vets were trying to push us out, those backyarders. But I still went and got trained.
Yeah.
So I had to earn everybody's respect twofold. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which was fine because I did it.
So would you say that was your training essentially?
No, I mean, I got officially trained. Obviously, I formed a lot of bad habits by doing that, but I also understood what I had to do to work with people.
Like this is bad if I go to the country section because I'll buy everything as long as it's classic. Or like, you know, like I like this weird kind of underground.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it'd be considered folk now or whatever, but.
Tell us about your first officially trained match and your thoughts before, during, and after.
Well, so my first match was a tag team match in Wapaka against Tom Rocky Stone. He made a career out of doing as little as possible and getting the most out of it, right? And I understand that now, where I sit now, and I love the chance to sit and talk to him when I get to see him. And the reason it happened was myself and Don Gotti were supposed to have a singles match. Dylan started getting bookings, Swoggle. Somehow he squeezed us on this show. Yeah. They watched us work out some sort of, I don't know if it was a top rope belly to belly suplex. We were trying to figure out how to get to something. And the promoter saw it and was like, nope.
Like I started with Green Day, right? And then it kind of branched to like Social D. Okay. You know, and then that was like the band that was okay at my house. It was too loud. Okay. My dad liked them.
Yeah.
The promotion was kind of built around like this old school 80s style. So they didn't want two kids coming in and doing high spots, right? And it wasn't good.
No?
Not at all. It was pretty awful. As a kid, you overthink things, right? Mm-hmm. If I would have been smart, I would have understood like he's trying to play to my strengths of the 8 things I know how to do. So I don't have to go out there 30 things and half of them you don't know how to do. And does that make sense?
Yeah. Concentrate on what you know
Yeah.
which will guarantee a better match than doing 30 things in which you know 15 of them.
Right.
And so you're going to do 15 things good, but the other 15, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
My wife just bought me for Valentine's Day. Bought me Post Malone,
Okay.
Sublime,
Okay.
and Luke Combs. Like you can't get.
That's a combo.
Yeah.
My first name ever in wrestling was Jason Graves because I'm a giant Misfits fan.
Okay.
I only did use that name for like 3 matches. Myself, Gambino, and Gotti, we had La Cosa Nostra as a group. I don't know, we did that for maybe a year or so. Maybe 2-3 years in, we had the foreign franchise.
I remember that.
And then obviously from there, here we are, a billion years later.
You were solo for a while,
Yeah.
for the most part,
Yeah.
And then the next big thing for you, I think, was the Beer City Bruisers, right? With you and Matt Winchester.
Yeah.
Like when we're setting up at shows, I want it, just house music, something to. I don't need words.
Yep.
Just need something to get me through the day.
Sometimes you just need to turn your brain off,
Yeah, for sure.
So at the time, Matt had just moved back from Missouri for training by Harley Race, or was just about to move back. We had a couple of matches when he moved back, and I think I was champion of the company, whatever company it was, NWA Wisconsin, I think at the time. And then I hurt my shoulder, whatever was happening, and I lost the title to Dysfunction. And then we had this whole thing where I was going to have to work my way from the bottom. So I was wrestling guys that had never been in a ring before, and it made me really mad the second time. Here, I'm trying to have good matches with guys that shouldn't be in a ring. Nothing personal against them. They just weren't ready or whatever. And Matt was kind of floating around in the middle. When he came back, he wasn't really doing anything either. So it's like, hey, we like to drink beer. We should just turn this into a gimmick.
Why not?
And we can team together and just drink beer while we wrestle. And who cares who we're wrestling or if the matches suck, at least we're having fun. And then we somehow got a promoter in Milwaukee to buy it, let us do it there. And then we got Bruce City to do it, and it just snowballed. And it became a thing where it was whoa.
I'm kind of jealous that I can't lose to you in a video game today. For a month, maybe. My son is so into games, so Dad, you gotta play this. And I get frustrated too quickly, so I just give up.
A lot of that, the credit goes to Matt. He's been around a little longer than I was. He kind of took me under his wing. I like to think that I held up my end of the bargain in that team, right? I was the good-looking one. I think a lot of the success there was where we were genuinely best friends, or at least very good friends, and so we liked each other's company. And he was a workhorse. He was the guy that was getting the bookings all over the place. He was the guy that was negotiating the deals. I just had to show up and wrestle. But I remember reading an indie wrestling ranking thing, and I don't know how people get voted or what. I've zero idea. And on an indie rankings board, we were rated the #1 tag team in the world.
Really?
Over Red Dragon.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Two schlubs from Wisconsin. And obviously Matt's gone on to do much bigger, better things, right? But 2 guys that were practically unknown, minus the areas we were traveling to and trying to build a name. And here, however this ranking happens or gets voted on, people knew enough of us to do it.
I remember doing, they had built up all this stuff in there, they were sending film over there to do random, I don't know, it's probably public access on their TV, right? And they were going to bring all these guys in, and their outlook was, I don't want to work with those guys, they look too angry.
Yeah?
Right, when Matt and I were tagging.
What made you decide to be a starting force in ACW Wisconsin?
Dylan asked me if I wanted to do it, and if you watch the Weimer interview, his answer was no. Mine was a strong no. So I've always been a guy backstage that even if it's not, hey, go do this, I've always kind of tried to help guys out, right? Or help pace the show or help guys with finishes or that, my mind is much better than what I can physically do in a ring.
He just one way or another convinced you, and now
it was well, I'm going to do this, and you're going to get booked anyway. You're already going to be there, you might as well. And it's come on.
Speaking of Dylan, everybody, it's well known, tag team move. He's one of your, if not your, best friend, not even in the wrestling world, but in real life.
Right.
Where did that friendship come from? How did you meet him, and how did it get so strong?
We met in 2nd grade. I was brand new to a school right after Christmas break. I knew nobody. And he had just came back from one of his back surgeries. So my first impression of this school 2 or 3 weeks in was, oh, they have parades for people? Because when he came back, they made an announcement over the loudspeaker, and they did a parade in the hallway, and everybody in every class came out and clapped, and oh, yay. I had no idea who he was. I'm not really sure exactly how, but we bonded immediately over wrestling when we first met. Like, oh, hey, you have a, whatever shirt on, or you have this wrestling backpack or lunchbox, whatever it was, right? And it was like immediate, boom, wrestling. Now we're friends.
Most of the work, they'd watch us walk in. They'd leave out the back door. They'd go to the promoter, hey man, what's going on? Nothing. You don't have a match because those guys are afraid to work with you. Huh. What do you mean?
It's never changed. That's been the bond the whole time. Obviously now, we're older, we have kids. And
It's kind of cool though, because a lot of people long for that kind of a friendship.
yeah, and it's kind of weird. So a lot of people don't know this, but I would be second, third cousins with like his brother, half brother and half sister. If you read his book, he talks a lot about, in the first few chapters, about his early life and family life and stuff. There's like this weird, asterisk.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately have not read the book yet. I've read parts of it.
Yeah.
How often are you brought up?
If I don't start getting royalties, I'm gonna get mad.
If I can say anything, I'm a professional.
Oh yeah.
But it also kind of gives you a little kick, right?
Exactly.
People
yeah.
buy it that much that I'm that mean.
Yeah.
And I'm probably one of the nicest guys ever.
You're a head trainer at the ACW Wisconsin Training Academy.
Yeah.
2 parts. First off, how did that come about? How does it feel, especially looking back on your career, knowing that you're going to have such an impactful legacy now in Wisconsin?
It started the same way the company started. Hey, I'm bored. Let's open a training school. No, don't want to do it. I've always been a guy that I continuously get this knowledge or keep, cultivating whatever wrestling information I can get, right? It doesn't do me any good to just hold on to it. So if I can watch something and help somebody, hey, change this. Hey, next time, wait a beat, do this, If I can help them better what they're doing, why not, right? I don't think that the training here is any different than Dojo Payne, Bruce City's school. I think you get quality training everywhere you go.
Antique mall or something. And I browse. And I'll buy stuff that I'm looking for, and then I take a chance on something. So I just find like a $2, I'll grab this, see what it is.
The very last day before everybody graduates, nobody graduates, but we ask everybody, hey, what's the biggest thing you learned? Not wrestling moves. What did this impact, right? And everybody's like, self-confidence through the roof. Most guys walk in here and they look at the floor and they're scared. And by the time they leave, they're cracking jokes to, somebody walking down the street because they just have that, right? They break out of their shell a little bit. And this business makes you do that anyway. But we push guys, and keep them, if you second guessing yourself, there's no time better than now to fix that.
I stopped buying so many video games so I can do sporting event stuff and concerts and stuff.
Right.
In fact, we're going to see the Aquabats and Little Big Fish this June, which I'm pretty excited for. But I replaced one addiction with another.
Right. I still, until, 6-8 years ago, didn't have confidence. I could portray that. Nobody in the locker room knew I wasn't confident. And of all people, Trevor Adonis was the one that pulled me aside and was like, stop beating yourself up. You are too good to do that. You should be doing stuff in a big company, right? You need to own it because you're that good. And then it was like, well, this guy, another guy that helped my career immensely. You hold him in that high respect, right? So he's a guy that when you hear something like that, it's like, oh, wow,
Welcome playing by Yuri.
I'm at a perfect part in my career where, I've done everything I wanted to do. I never wanted to be a star. at the end of the day, like being at home with my wife and kids is more important than taking a booking in front of 30 people. My mental health, as I get older, I get more anxiety. Again, I don't show that to anybody in the locker room, where I start second guessing myself. And part of that is just getting older, being a little more broken. I can't do what I used to be able to do. Those things come with wrestling too. It's not all positive, you know.
If anything, you can't deny what it gives you and how you live it. Wrestling is one of the most unique lifestyles you can have in the world.
Oh, absolutely. You know, there's that saying, if you can count your real friends on one hand, you know, one set of fingers, you're pretty lucky. There's a lot of people that I don't talk to regularly at all, right? I watched the last episode with Devin, and my name came up, and he had said, oh, I don't talk to him very often. Devin is my brother, right? We've all cultivated this family. I haven't seen Devin in a couple of years, but it's no different if you walk through the door today. I'd still give him a handshake and a big hug. Hey, how you doing?
100%.
What's going on, right? So there's that. That's definite positive. I mean, the positives far outweigh the negatives, right? But like everything else in life, you get what you put in, and you take out what you want. Hey, this is Nick Colucci. I just want to say thank you to Between Counts, Ref TJ. I want to say thanks to Eroding Winds record store on Main Street in Oshkosh for letting us be there today. And I want to thank all the fans for constantly supporting what we do. Please continue to do that. Go ahead and check out ACW Wisconsin on Facebook. Hope to see you all soon.